Naomi Brooks was supposed to be invisible that night, a black waitress in a luxury New York restaurant, moving quietly between tables of men who spoke in numbers, power, and entitlement. She was supposed to smile, nod, and disappear. That was the role assigned to her long before she ever opened her mouth. But then the billionaire laughed. In Arabic, he mocked her intelligence, her education, her place in the room, certain she wouldn't understand a word. Certain she was just another uniform, just another face he didn't need to respect. What he didn't know was this. Every word he spoke landed perfectly in her mind, and when she finally looked him in the eyes and answered, calmly, fluently, brilliantly, the entire restaurant fell into a silence so heavy it felt like judgment itself had entered the room. In that moment, power shifted, because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can underestimate is the person you never thought was listening. Naomi Brooks learned early that silence could be mistaken for ignorance. She felt it again that night as her fingers tightened around the edge of a silver tray, the polished metal cold against her palms. The dining room of the Silver Crown glowed with soft amber light, the kind designed to make people feel important. Crystal glasses caught reflections like tiny stars. Linen-draped tables whispered money, power, certainty. At the center table sat Khalid al-Mansour. Even if no one had told her who he was, Naomi would have known. Men like him carried their wealth differently, not loudly, not nervously. He sat relaxed, one arm resting on the chair beside him, tailored charcoal suit flawless, cufflinks catching the light when he lifted his phone. Around him were three executives in dark suits, all leaning slightly inward, as if gravity itself bent toward Khalid. New York's elite had gathered tonight for him. Naomi stepped forward, her posture straight, her expression calm. She wore the standard black and white uniform of the restaurant, hair pulled back into a neat bun. To most of the room, she blended into the background, another black woman in service, trained to be polite, efficient, invisible. "Good evening," she said clearly. "Welcome to the Silver Crown." Khalid didn't look up. He waved a hand, eyes still on his phone. "Red wine," he said, his accent smooth, deliberate. "Something expensive," Naomi nodded. "May I recommend the Chateau Margaux 2015? Exceptional year. It pairs well with..." He finally glanced at her. Not with curiosity, with boredom. "Just bring whatever," he cut in. "I don't need advice from a waitress." The men beside him smiled, not openly, the kind of smiles people thought were harmless because they were quiet. Naomi felt the familiar heat rise in her chest. She swallowed it down. "Of course, sir." She turned and walked away, her steps steady. Dignity, her father used to say, was something no one could take unless you handed it to them. When she returned with the wine, one of the executives, a gray-haired man with sharp eyes, pointed at the menu. "What do you recommend?" he asked, more out of politeness than interest. Naomi paused for half a second, scanning the menu in her mind. The sea bass tonight was flown in from the Atlantic this morning. It's served with toasted pecan crust and citrus reduction. The acidity balances the richness, and the texture. The man blinked, surprised. "That sounds excellent." Khalid didn't react. He continued scrolling, typing, detached from both the food and the people around him. Naomi waited silently, professional, present, but unseen. Then Khalid looked up. He studied her this time. Her skin tone, the uniform, the way she stood. Something unreadable flickered in his eyes before he turned to the men beside him and spoke in Arabic. Naomi's grip tightened on the tray. "Listen to this," Khalid said with a faint smirk. "She talks about fish like she memorized a script." Low laughter followed. Another man added, also in Arabic, "Probably didn't even finish high school, but at least she's confident." More laughter, softer, crueler. They didn't lower their voices. They didn't need to. To them, she wasn't supposed to understand. What they didn't know, what they couldn't imagine, was that Naomi understood every word. Her father, Marcus Brooks, had been a professional Arabic interpreter. Business negotiations, trade deals, contracts worth millions. Naomi grew up hearing the language at the dinner table, absorbing its rhythm, its precision. By 16, she could follow technical discussions most adults struggled with. But she said nothing. She simply smiled and asked, "Is there anything else I can get for you?" Khaled waved her away without looking. As she walked back toward the kitchen, her heart pounded, not with fear, but with something sharper. Memory, loss, rage carefully folded and stored where it couldn't be used against her. Behind the kitchen doors, Naomi leaned briefly against the cool tile wall. She closed her eyes. She saw her parents. Her mother, Elaine, bent over spreadsheets late at night, explaining cash flow like it was a story with characters and consequences. Her father correcting her pronunciation gently, always patiently. Then the accident. One phone call. One night. Everything gone. Columbia University dropped. Dreams postponed. Survival first. Naomi opened her eyes. When she returned to the dining room, the conversation at Khaled's table had grown louder. He was speaking animatedly in Arabic, frustration evident now. "These people don't understand international markets," he said, irritation sharp in his tone. "They want partnerships without calculating currency exposure. I'm talking about a $150 million port infrastructure investment, and they can't even assess risk-adjusted returns." The executives nodded gravely. Naomi placed the appetizers down carefully, one by one. Without looking at her, Khaled chuckled and added in Arabic, "Honestly, maybe I should ask the waitress for advice. She seems very knowledgeable." The table erupted in laughter. Something inside Naomi shifted. She stopped. The silence came slowly, as people noticed she hadn't walked away. Naomi turned around. "May I ask a question?" she said calmly. Khaled frowned. "What?" "You mentioned a port investment," Naomi continued, still in English. "Are you considering the Port of Newark or a private terminal partnership?" The laughter died instantly. Khaled stared at her. "Excuse me?" "Because public-private port projects in the U.S. have an average return horizon of 8 to 12 years, she went on. "And if it's private, currency hedging becomes critical due to export volatility." The executives froze. Then Naomi switched to Arabic. "And since you asked for advice in Arabic," she said evenly, "the biggest mistake in deals like this is underestimating local political risk." Khaled stood so fast his chair scraped loudly across the marble floor. "What do you think you're doing?" he snapped, now in English. Naomi met his eyes. "Just answering the question you asked, sir." The entire restaurant was silent. For the first time in his life, Khaled Al-Mansour realized something terrifying. The person he had dismissed, mocked, and humiliated because she was black, because she wore a uniform, because she served instead of sat, had just seen through him, and she wasn't finished yet. Naomi turned calmly and walked away, leaving behind a table of powerful men who suddenly felt very small. Be honest, if you had been sitting at that table, would you have spoken up or stayed silent? Your answer matters. Khaled Al-Mansour did not finish his meal that night. He barely tasted the wine he had ordered with such confidence. The laughter that once surrounded his table had evaporated, replaced by an uncomfortable quiet. His associates avoided his eyes. The restaurant, moments ago a playground of power, now felt hostile, as if the walls themselves were listening, and all of it traced back to one person. Naomi Brooks, a black waitress in a crisp uniform, who had dismantled him with calm sentences and flawless Arabic. Back in the kitchen, Naomi moved on autopilot. She cleared tables, nodded politely, answered routine questions. But inside, her pulse refused to slow. She knew what she had done. In places like the Silver Crown, dignity from someone like her was often treated as defiance. She expected consequences. When the shift ended, the manager called her into his office. Robert Hayes looked uneasy, fingers interlocked on the desk. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said carefully. "But Mr. Al-Mansour was very upset." Naomi met his gaze. "I answered a question he asked." Robert sighed. "I know. Just give me time." That night, Khaled lay awake in the Langford Grand Hotel, staring at the ceiling of the presidential suite. New York glimmered below, indifferent to his restlessness. His phone lay face down on the table, untouched. He replayed the scene again and again. Her voice, her composure, the way she hadn't raised her tone once. What unsettled him wasn't that she had been smart. It was that she had seen him clearly. By morning, shame had curdled into obsession. He summoned his assistant, Omar Sadiq, with a single message: Find everything about Naomi Brooks today. By noon, the report arrived. Khaled read it twice, then a third time. Daughter of Marcus Brooks, Arabic interpreter. Elaine Brooks, forensic accountant. Naomi Brooks, former economics student at Columbia University, dropped out after both parents died in a car accident. No safety net, no inheritance, no shortcuts. Khaled set the phone down slowly. He remembered his own childhood, private tutors, elite schools, deals made on his behalf before he was old enough to shave. And Naomi Brooks had lost everything and still stood upright. That evening, Naomi returned to the Silver Crown, bracing herself to be fired. Instead, Robert pulled her aside. Table 12, discreet. He asked for you. Her stomach tightened. She didn't need to ask who he was. Khaled sat alone this time, jacket unbuttoned, expression unreadable. When Naomi approached, he stood, not out of dominance but hesitation. Please, he said quietly. Sit. 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Naomi sat. I investigated you, Khaled said, not defensively, just stating fact. I assumed you would, Naomi replied. He nodded. I owe you an apology. She waited. What I did was wrong, he continued. Not just unprofessional, cruel. I saw a uniform and decided it defined you. Naomi's voice remained steady. That happens a lot, Khaled exhaled. I need your help. That caught her attention. My investment, he said. It's failing before it begins. My advisors keep circling the same useless conclusions. I believe you can see what they can't. Naomi studied him carefully. Why would I help you? Because I will pay you, fairly, and because you care about the truth. Silence stretched between them. $50,000, Khaled added, just to review the structure. Triple that if you find the problem. Naomi felt the weight of the number press against her chest. Rent, tuition, air to breathe. One condition, she said. Respect, equal footing. Khaled extended his hand. Agreed. 2 days later, Naomi sat in a glass-walled conference room at Hudson Capital Tower. Spreadsheets covered the table. Contracts lay stacked like bricks. Within an hour, she knew. This model is lying, she said quietly. Khaled froze. Explain. These growth projections ignore capacity limits. The return assumptions are inflated, and someone manipulated the data. She pulled a file forward. Here, real port traffic numbers, 20% lower than reported. Omar's fingers flew across his keyboard. She's right. Naomi didn't stop. And this consultancy, she slid another document across, is owned by your partner's brother. The air went cold. Khaled stared at the signature. Samir Rahman. Yes, Naomi said. This deal was designed for you to lose. For the first time since childhood, Khaled felt truly betrayed. The confrontation happened 3 days later. Samir arrived confident, left shaken. Proof stacked against him, numbers, contracts, timelines. You underestimated her, Khaled said calmly. I won't. When Samir stormed out, Khaled turned to Naomi. You saved me $150 million. Naomi shook her head. I saved you from listening to the wrong people. Khaled slid an envelope toward her. Payment, earned. And a job offer, he added. Official, senior advisor. Naomi stood. I need time. 3 days later, she returned to the Silver Crown to resign. Before she could leave, Khaled appeared. I heard you received another offer, he said. Yes, Naomi replied. From Hassan Al-Fayed, better terms. Khaled smiled, not bitterly, but with respect. You deserve it. Naomi met his eyes. Then let me leave you with this. She spoke slowly. That night, you didn't just insult me. You insulted every person you don't see. That's a choice. Khaled lowered his head. I understand. As Naomi stepped out into the city, the noise of New York rushed to meet her. For the first time in years, the future felt open. And somewhere behind glass and power, Khaled Al-Mansour finally understood what respect truly cost. Naomi Brooks didn't wake up the next morning feeling triumphant. She woke up feeling quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after something heavy has finally been set down. For the first time in years, she didn't reach for her phone with dread. didn't calculate rent in her head before getting out of bed, didn't brace herself for another day of being underestimated. Sunlight filtered through the narrow window of her apartment, touching the framed photo on her dresser. Her parents, Marcus and Elaine Brooks. She stood there for a long moment, fingertips resting on the edge of the frame. "I didn't stay silent," she whispered. "I hope that counts for something." Later that day, she walked into the sleek glass lobby of a financial firm she never imagined she'd enter, without an apron folded over her arm. The security guard looked up, hesitated, then smiled politely and waved her through. It was a small thing, but Naomi noticed it. She noticed everything now. Her meeting with Hassan Al-Fayed was brief and respectful. No raised eyebrows, no tests disguised as jokes. He spoke to her like a professional from the first sentence. "You saw what others refused to see," he said. "That's not something we teach. That's something you earn." When Naomi stepped back onto the street, contract signed, she felt lighter, not because of the salary, not even because of the opportunity, but because for once she had been met where she stood. That evening, Khaled Al-Mansour sat alone in his office, the city humming below him. The boardroom was empty now. Samir Rahman's name had been erased from every document, every partnership. Justice handled quietly, precisely. But Khaled wasn't thinking about money. He was thinking about a moment, about the way Naomi had stood in front of him, surrounded by men with power, and refused to shrink. He replayed her words again. That's a choice. For the first time, Khaled began to question how many choices he had made without ever noticing. The next week, Naomi returned to the Silver Crown, not to work, but to say goodbye. Robert Hayes greeted her with a wide smile. "I knew you were going places," he said. "Just didn't know how fast." Naomi laughed softly. "Neither did I." The staff gathered near the bar when word spread. Some hugged her, some simply nodded with quiet pride. One young server, barely 20, pulled her aside. "I heard what you did," the girl said, eyes shining. "I didn't think someone like us could do that." Naomi knelt slightly so they were eye to eye. "Someone like us can do anything," she said. "Just don't let anyone convince you otherwise." As Naomi stepped outside, she paused. Across the street, Khaled stood waiting. No entourage, no car door held open. Just a man in a simple suit, hands at his sides. "I wanted to say goodbye properly," he said. Naomi studied him. "You already apologized." "Yes," he replied, "but this isn't about closure for me. It's about acknowledgement." He met her gaze. "You changed how I see people. Not because you embarrassed me, but because you didn't need me." Naomi nodded. "That's usually what scares people the most." Khaled gave a small, honest smile. "I'm trying to do better." They shook hands. Equal, simple, final. Naomi turned and walked away, blending into the movement of the city. Black, confident, unapologetically herself. Weeks passed. Naomi's new office overlooked the river. Her days were filled with numbers, meetings, strategy. But something had shifted. She made space for voices that reminded her of herself. She questioned assumptions. She spoke up when others were dismissed too quickly. And one afternoon, when a junior analyst hesitated before presenting, Naomi leaned forward and said, "Take your time. We're listening." Because she remembered what it felt like when no one did. As for Khaled, his reputation changed quietly. Not because of press releases or charity dinners, but because of behavior. Assistants noticed it first, then junior partners, then competitors. He listened more. He interrupted less. And every time he entered a room, he remembered a black woman in a waitress uniform who had once reminded him that intelligence doesn't wear a costume. On a rainy evening months later, Naomi walked home, coat pulled tight, city lights reflecting on wet pavement. She passed the Silver Crown and smiled faintly. That chapter was closed, but the lesson remained. Respect isn't earned by status. It's revealed by how you treat those who can do nothing for you. Naomi unlocked her door, stepped inside, and closed it behind her. Not to shut the world out, but to finally step into it on her own terms. And somewhere, in restaurants, offices, classrooms, and boardrooms, the question lingered. Who are you overlooking right now? Before we end, let me ask you something. How did this story make you feel? Do you think stories like Naomi's still happen every day in real life? If you enjoyed this story, Comment 111 below. Tell us which country you're watching from. And if this story moved you even a little, please share it, because someone out there might need to hear it today.